Hello and welcome to the Football Manc Cave chats with Chris Ridgeway. How you doing, Chris? You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm good. How's lockdown life treating you?
Not too bad. I'm just starting to get used to it, actually. Juggling work, kids, and having a few sneaky beers on the side. No football, although it's coming back in slowly. I'm getting used to it. How are you finding it?
Yeah, very similar, to be fair. More beer than sneaky. It's quite apparent going off my recycling bin at the minute, but yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it? You just got to make the most of the situation. Have you been watching the? Oh, sorry, go on.
It's great. Well, on recycling bins, I don't know what they're doing with recycling bins anymore. Some weeks they could take them, and some weeks they felt like a right alcoholic the other day, leaving mine full out there. Nobody came and took it.
Did you swap it with the neighbours?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just tipped a bit in there.
Have you been watching any of the Bundesliga?
Do you know, I'm going to sound like the Antichrist when I say this, but no. Don't get me wrong, I like watching any football. I'm sure you're the same. You know, you will watch it if it's on telly, but I would never go out of my way to watch the Bundesliga. And I feel like it's just a bit forced at the moment. I feel like until they've properly figured out what the solutions are, I can't really enjoy it the same. Don't get me wrong, if I walk in the room and it's on, then I'm going to sit down and open a couple of tins. But at the moment, no, I've not seen any because I just can't feel like I can relate to it at the moment.
No, that was going to lead into my question. I've watched a couple of it, and watching the football with zero crowd is such a weird experience. I'm not big on Bundesliga, to be fair. It's similar to yourself. If it's on, I'll watch it. I thought, I'll give it a whirl. We've not had football for a bit, so let's just have a see. And just couldn't get into it. 15, 20 minutes, switched off. I think I ended up with Peppa Pig on after that. It was good, great watch.
Personal favourite of mine, yeah.
Yes, but yeah, it's just weird, and obviously you're massively into Stockport County, and I think do you cover them? You could and commentate. Yeah. Is that am I right? Yeah. So what are your thoughts of obviously after the announcement today? If the playoffs comes to fruition, and Stockport play, what are your thoughts about Stockport possibly playing with no crowd?
Well. It's not something we'd be used to. I mean, County, it feels almost big-headed saying this, but County are kind of known through the non-league divisions for bringing a crowd. You know, probably the biggest followed club, or certainly in the top 3 or 4 biggest followed clubs. So it would be a little bit of a culture shock. And like you say, with the fact that the National League seemingly maybe do have now the rights or the authorities to order some playoffs, and it looks like we might be going down that road. If County are able to hold on to the position that they're currently in, then it would feel strange. I would like to think that we could be in there to cover it and to commentate on it. I'd like to think that we could get a media pass and go in there, but as a spectacle, I think it would be weird. And as a player, imagine being told you're being played in such a big game. This is a game that, speaking selfishly from a County perspective, the kind of game that could propel County back to the Football League. You know, the kind of game that would go down in history. It's certainly in the club's history. But you can't celebrate in front of the fans because there are none. And you're not going to get those chills walking out to 6,500, 7,000 fans because they're not allowed in. I'm sure as professionals they would deal with it, but from my perspective, yeah, it just feels strange.
It would, and I was saying this. I was chatting to Ian Cheeseman on another pod, and I was saying about how the crowd plays such a factor that if, say, County are down and they've got 20 minutes left, they haven't got that 12th man to push them on. You know, if they're going for a result, and it's just gonna be such a weird experience for the players, obviously for the fans alike. Knowing that they can't make a difference, and for me, I feel like it's rushed at the minute. Football massively. I really do think it's rushed back.
Yeah, I'm absolutely inclined to agree with you. And what Ian has touched on there is right. I mean, I've spoken to numerous players about this over the years, from non-league all the way up to Premier League players, La Liga players, and just asked about what it's like playing in front of different crowds and what that crowd does to you and how it motivates you. And to be fair, they always, the general consensus I get back is it does kind of work both ways. If you're a midfielder and you misplace a pass when you're on the attack or whatever, and you hear that groan from the crowd, it does kind of get at you and it does affect your game. But at the same time, if you break free from a man, or if you, I don't know, win a big crunching block tackle or whatever, you know, that kind of energy that comes from the four stands around you, that you can just feel it. It makes your blood fill with adrenaline. It makes you want to kind of get involved and up your game, I guess. So it's not just a cliche saying, you know, it really is a true fact that, of course, you feed off the energy from around you. I wouldn't like to second guess those players, but they must be thinking it's just not going to feel the same.
No, 100%. And like I say, especially with Stockport, I mean, the tide has turned for them in recent years, and they're on the cusp potentially of getting themselves back into the Football League, and to do that with no fans, it's similar. I'm a United fan, and it pains me to say so, but it's similar to obviously Liverpool winning the league for the first time. Do you know what I mean? Not to have the fans in the crowd, and obviously to savour that moment. I think it's just a disservice to football, and I think it's the fans' game, and obviously the fans can't do what they want to do, celebrating in your own home. It just wouldn't be the same, would it?
No, and I think you're right to kind of compare it to Liverpool and almost to a certain degree to Leeds, West Brom or Fulham in the Championship. In particular, Leeds, they will have seen this season as this is their year. You know, this is the same as Liverpool. This is the one. I mean, Liverpool in particular have absolutely romped the league. But each of those three clubs, Stockport, Liverpool and Leeds, have all got a story behind them of how they've done it. I mean, you look at County last season, winning the league on a budget that was competitive, but not, you know, it wasn't run away with the league kind of money. Yeah. This season, they've gone a division above, brought in hardly anybody into the squad, if we're going to be honest. They've not gone out and strengthened. They've kept that same team. The budget that they had at the beginning of the season was, I mean, mid-table at a push. Yeah. And the fact that they're able to propel themselves up to a playoff position after all the parades last season, the open-top buses, the smoke bombs, the flares, all going off around the town, the real good vibe that it brought to it. Like you say, to have that taken off them, would I trade it for a place in the league? Of course I would. But would it feel, I think you've hit the nail on the head, it would feel forced. Yeah,
it would. I mean, I remember watching, I came down a couple of times to County at the back end of last season, and that team looked special, and you could sort of sense if they got it right this year, they'd be pushing again for at least playoffs. Yeah. And obviously they've done that and looking for like back-to-back promotions. And to see it back in the Football League would be absolutely amazing. I bet you'd be buzzing.
It's just, it almost, I mean, we've been out of the league so long now. Do you know what I mean? We've been out of the league for so long. The younger generation of fans coming through, you would almost forgive them for not seeing County as a league club. And if that feels ridiculous to say, when you look at the stadium, you look at the players, you look at the fan base and everything else that goes with it. But, I mean, we're in a position where teams like Crawley, with all due respect to them, teams like Crawley, Fleetwood, Forest Green, Stevenage, they're all carving out Football League positions, and County are languishing in Division 6, Division 5. So the fact that they're so close now, I think, get back up into the league is where they belong. Like you say, if all this Corona stuff hadn't happened, we may have done it this season. You kind of get the impression with the new investment and new backing the club have got, we probably would have done it next season. But what a story it would have been if they'd done it this season. And it's a strange one now, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, I called it last year, like a sleeping giant that had been woken up. And like I say, that tide's turned. How do you feel if the playoffs were to go ahead and say they go off the current standing? How do you feel they would fare in the playoffs?
You've got to say they'd be in with a swing. I mean, the form that we were in, not that you can really read too much into it, but the form that we were in was good, considering that we'd had this investment, we'd we've had these new players come in, players like Liam Hogan in particular, centre half, big kind of experience, really crucial, kind of playing a role in just shoring up that back line and turning losses into draws and draws into wins. Players like him who have now had that time to gel and embed and just kind of get to know the lads. You know what I mean? All the WhatsApp groups and Zoom calls and eventual training sessions when they come around, he will now feel so much more part of the team than he would have done a few weeks ago when the push was really going on and we're in that kind of position of, are we going to do it or are we not? But on the other side of that coin, players that we would have had, that we had on loan or that we had within the squad have obviously now left because Danny Lloyd's gone back to Salford. Jim Gannon released his retained list the other day, and certain players like Dan Cowan, Frank Mulhern, they're not on it. So if we are now in a playoff position, have we just lost a couple of players that maybe would have played a role in it? So I don't know. If truth be told, I think County would go in swinging. I don't know the current situation of the other clubs. How have they kept hold of players? Have they let players go? But I'd fancy us. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't do anything in them.
I think with the playoffs as well, it's such like what's the word, like so random. You can never call it because of the way it is, the home and away ties, and you got the one-off game. An underdog as such could like just come out of nowhere and absolutely blast it. Obviously, with Liam signing as well, he has got a little bit of experience from last year taking Salford up, so that'll bode well in there. But it's just every time I spoke to someone recently, it's because nobody knows what's happening. You can't really you're hoping, like I say, it'll happen, and maybe it might, but then you're like, well, then the players have had 2-3 months off, so is 3 games enough for them to? Because obviously they need to be like bang on the money. Is it enough for them to get in? Like you feel like they need like a pre-season, don't you, to start to then go into these 3 basically club-changing games.
Yeah, completely. And even when you think of it, you're right to say it's a club-changing game, but for the players, it's almost a career-changing game or 2 or 3 games as well. Because when you think about it from a mercenary point of view, this is their CV they're looking to fill. Yeah. And if they can have a player like Liam Hogan, for example, if he's won back-to-back promotions on his CV, that will get him a contract later down the line, be it with Stockport or somewhere else if he moves on. Similar with players like Ash Palmer and the others who came up with County last season, they've got back-to-back promotions on the CV. That looks really, really good. So it's player changing, and you've got to think, what impact is it going to have on the clubs down at the bottom of the league? What's going to happen with those? I mean, Stephen is looking at this and thinking, well, hang on a sec, if there's a team coming up or 2 teams coming up, that means we're going down. And, we were on for putting a fight back. I don't know, it probably wasn't going to happen, but if you're a Stevenage fan, you're going to say it was. Same with Chorley down at the bottom of our table and filed. So, I wouldn't like to be in their shoes. I'm just, do you know what? I'm glad. I found myself saying this a few times. I'm glad it's not me that has to make the decision.
Yeah.
I'm the wrong guy to make this kind of call. But it's fascinating. It's almost like a slow burning TV series, isn't it? Every week you find out a little bit more about what's going to happen. And I just hate to be the writer of it because I don't know which way it's going to go.
No, and I think it is just going to open itself up to like a legal meltdown. Obviously, if teams are getting relegated, like say people think I'm in with a shout here of staying up, which they might not do, but they're gonna try like a boxer, aren't they? They're gonna try and fight to the end. It's gonna be it's just so bizarre. I do feel football's rushing back. Like today, they've said contact training for the Premier League, and I think we only come back to training last week. So give it a few weeks. This is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, hopefully. This is never going to happen again. So let it be. And then when it's safe, let's do it. Do you know what I mean? If next season doesn't happen or it's shortened or we have to do something about it, then let that be. But it's either we null and void it and then we start again in August, or just carry it out and make sure everything's sweet before we can start again. It's a weird time.
I mean, from a club loyalty perspective, I shouldn't really be saying this, but I almost do believe that we should be null and voiding it. And I can completely understand if you're a Barrow fan, a Leeds fan, a Liverpool fan, you're screaming at this, going, absolutely not, no chance.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it worth it? Is it?
Yeah.
There's going to be sponsors that have things to say about it. There's going to be agents that have things to say about it and everything else. But I mean, at what point do we just give it up? Now,
yeah.
I know it can't be one rule for Liverpool and one rule for Leeds or whatever, but the common sense thing would say nobody's catching Liverpool, so give it them. Fulham potentially could catch Leeds or West Brom, so don't give it them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's what I would say. And unfortunately, that would mean County would fall on the wrong side of that. I don't think County would complain too much if they were told that. I think we'd write off the season fine. Like you say, it's once in a lifetime pandemic. But I don't think it will fall like that. I think they will force the playoffs through. Personally, I'm in agreement. Just null and void it. Just null and void it.
Get it done. So I want to go back to the past, we'll sort of say, is it 15 years maybe, of County being in the Division 1, the slide down the leagues, and now they're coming back up. How's that been as a roller coaster in shorter than 5 minutes? Because it's a story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something. So I'm a Stockport lad, and growing up, even now, we're overshadowed by the big boys. There's United and City up the road that we've not been able to compete with, bar the odd season here and there with City. That we've just not been able to compete with them. Now, in the kind of 2008 era, when we had players like John Ruddy and Ashley Williams, Stephen Gleeson, Anthony Pilkington, all this like top class kind of player, I remember saying to friends at the time, we've got players here that could play for England or that could play in the Premier League, and just getting laughed off the park. Do you know what I mean? And, that I think was the hardest bit to see, because we had those players. Nobody likes to see the team relegated. Nobody likes to see you get, your side getting battered week in, week out, 6-0 here, 5-1 there, whatever. Do you know, it's not nice. But then when you see what County had, and you see the likes of Anthony Pilkington going, playing for Ireland and playing in the Premier League, Ashley Williams, who's now the captain of Wales, even at 36, he's still the captain of his national side, who, they beat that Belgium team in the Euros last season. You look at the players like Tommy Rowe, Stephen Gleeson's, Wayne Hennessy, all these players, and you think that was a Premier League team. Do you know that absolutely was? Give it time. But from a club perspective, and again, there'll be people that don't agree with me on this, but for a while I just felt detached from it. I had my own life going on. I was in university and things like that. And it was just almost like it became a chore going to watch County, because things have gone so bad. The pitch was in terrible condition. I was never really one for being interested in what was going on behind the scenes. I'm a football fan. I like watching the midfielder who can take on 3 players and whip a ball into the box, or the big centre half that takes no nonsense. That's what I love about football. I'm not really interested in the politics.
Yeah.
And whose name is above the door. But you just knew that bad things were happening. You hear all these takeover rumours, and it's kind of one joker after another. But so when the inevitable relegations came, and I remember when we fell out the league, it was almost like a little bit of disbelief. But I remember having a specific conversation with some friends at the time, saying, "Oh well, look, we've been relegated out of League 2, but just think of it like this: we'll have a season in the conference, where we'll go to all these grounds we've never been to before. We'll smash every single one of them, and we'll storm it. And it'll be like Newcastle when they went down to the Championship and they just battered everyone and went straight back up." And that didn't happen. And I remember someone told me a story that they were, I think it was Bury or Rochdale, and when the news came through that County had been relegated from the Football League, they were all kind of singing and laughing and joking and, "Oh well, see you later," kind of, see you later, boys. And then the same guy told me a year or two later when County got relegated again, he was at the ground again, and someone had said, "Oh, Stockport been relegated to the again." And then there was like a hush around. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, it wasn't funny anymore because the club had, all right, if you go into the conference, I get it. We can take a couple of digs in the ribs, but when you go down again, Jesus, you're in a grim place there. So we had to kind of acclimatise to this new depth we'd not been to before, and you try and put a bit of a spin on it. You see all these players then further in their careers, and such and such a players now. Williams is going to Everton. Josh Thompson's going to Celtic. All these big moves for these players that have earned it, and you think we should have had that. But as you know, it's cyclical, and it makes you enjoy it all that more. In the grand scheme of things, is winning the Division 6 title the best thing you'll ever celebrate in your life? No. But when it came through, Jesus, it was like winning the lottery. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole town came together, and that might as well have been the championship would have won, because the number of people that flooded the streets for the parade, that was something that's what football does to a community, and it just made you so thankful that we had it and we had the opportunity to win it. And now I feel quite good about it. All right, we're still in the conference and we're not in the division we should be in, but you feel like you're on the road to redemption now. So I'm fairly upbeat about it.
And that's it, isn't it? Like, I feel like, obviously these past 7 years at United have been atrocious. And I said at the start of last season, look, I'll take a crap season as long as I can see progression. I'll take mid-table, I'll take us out of all the leagues as long as we can see the bigger picture. And I feel like as a supporter of a club, if you can see your team slowly turning in the right direction, you'll go with it, won't you? And you'll 100%. Take a little bit of shit basically for the better and the good. And like I say, Stockport last season, watching them, especially from Christmas, that turnaround was unbelievable.
Well,
unbelievable.
Just before Christmas, County are sitting 12th in the table.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months later, we win the league. I mean, that's a rocky story. Do you know what I mean? That's a rocky story.
It really is.
I completely understand about Man United. I mean, it's almost like they've had several blueprints for success, and on every single one of them, something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
Louis van Gaal bringing in some of the best players in the world, then, just didn't happen. Ryan Giggs, you want it to work if you're a United fan for all the obvious reasons, doesn't quite come off. Even going back before Van Gaal, David Moyes is supposed to be the next Ferguson, doesn't work. Mourinho comes in, doesn't work. It's going to be interesting to see what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does. Sometimes you think he's a genius, and sometimes you think he's got it wrong. But even though I'm not a Red, I'm intrigued. I am intrigued in it.
It is. I mean, for me, obviously, I'm gutted as it is, because we were turning, as you could see, our turn of form was really coming into our own, and we built a little bit of momentum up, and it would, for the first time in a long time, it would go. Do you know what I mean? But we'll just have to see what happens. Basically, can't make any predictions or anything.
I think United will be okay. I think they'll definitely carry on to kick on, because for me, and you may well disagree, but for me, the reason they had the turn in form was simply Bruno Fernandes. He came in and everything changed around him. So because of that, I think you will pick up where you left off. It wasn't just something started to click. It was, you got a world-class player sitting in the middle of the park, and all of a sudden the whole team kicked on. I know what it's like playing Sunday League or five-a-side or whatever. When you've got a player that is just different gravy to everyone else, you raise your game. You can't help it. You want to play
and
around
it. Connected the dots. That's what it was for me. Connected all the dots that have been coming together, and it's exciting going forward. But like I was saying with the playoffs, if they happen, obviously when the teams come back to play, it is like going to be watching back in August again. It's going to take them. It's going to take them time. The opposite of where they was, they're not going to just get right back into that mode, and it's frustrating, isn't it, more than anything?
Is it a bizarre concept to think if you were a manager? Jim Gannon. I've not spoken to Jim Gannon since this whole furloughing Corona situation kicked off, so I'm not basing this on anything. But if you're Jim Gannon or one of the other managers in the playoffs, could you be right within your rights to say we don't want to play in them? Because you're going to you can't just drop, like you say, it's almost like pre-season, yeah? You can't just have this amount of time off and then go and play in a cup final. Like you physically have to have it. But if we're not in a position where we're allowed to have friendlies, or there's not teams who are willing to commit to friendlies, we can't prepare. And if you're a manager, I mean, your job could rely on the playoffs. So I don't know. Is there a certain train of thought, and I'm sure Jim Gannon would disagree with me, but there must be at least one manager in all the divisions, in all the teams who could be in the playoffs, who might think, I'd rather stop for another season. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel confident of winning with the squad, the shape that it's in. There must be one.
Yeah, there has to be. And it might come out, do you know what I mean? Obviously, I think because of the money involved in football now, it's a case of the clubs will do what they're told. But I think afterwards, we'll then hear the proper stories, because nobody's going to be big enough to come out and say beforehand, what's what, are they? Let's be honest. So, yeah, it's just letting it play out, and we'll see. Basically, it's a weird time. Chris, before we go, you have got your hands in many pies, I see through Twitter. Give us some direction where people can find out some more stuff about you.
I guess your social is the place, isn't it? I don't even know what's my handle. At Ridge Tweet is my Twitter handle, and I think it's just Chris Ridgeway on Instagram. I'll be honest. So before all this kicked off, I went to take on a role at a broadcasting company that shall remain nameless. It's a big British one, if I can give you a clue there. And they said to us, "You've got a really good kind of social presence on Twitter, but your Instagram's not up to much." So I've been trying to just give it some form of life, just posting up old pictures of hanging around with famous boxers and footballers and stuff. But I'm trying to get a bit more active on there. At Live SCFC is obviously the radio station's Twitter handle. That does have an Instagram as well now. And again, we're just trying to keep it up there, but we're not much copying it.
I think it's crazy that this day and age, you're judged by your Instagram.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's unbelievable. It doesn't matter how good you are at your job.
No.
Yeah.
It's all about the social figures. Right. Thank you for your time, Chris. We'll definitely catch up. Hopefully, we'll sort of see some playoff action, and we'll have a little bit of a chat. If, when, whatever happens.
Ian, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.